All
Amen.
right.
So I'll set it off. Judges
And
19.
just give me 1 second so I can get the screen share up.
Okay.
All right, take her away.
One more.
Oh,
Was it Judges 19, right?
Judges
Yes.
19.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Father. Judges 19, King James Version. And it came to pass in those days, when there was no king in Israel, that there was a certain Levite sojourning on the side of the Mount Ephraim, who took him a concubine out of Bethlehem, Judah. And his concubine played the whore against him, and went away from him unto her father's house to Bethlehem, Judah, and was there 4 whole months. And her husband arose and went after her to speak friendly unto her, and to bring her again, having his servant with him and a couple of asses. And she brought him into her father's house. And when the father of the damsel saw him, he rejoiced to meet him. And his father-in-law, the damsel's father, retained him, and he abode with him 3 days. And they did eat and drink and lodge there. And it came to pass on the 4th day, when they arose early in the morning, that he rose up to depart. And the damsel's father said unto his son-in-law, Comfort thine heart with a morsel of bread, and afterward go your way. And they sat down and did eat and drink, both of them together. For the damsel's father had said unto the man, Be content, I pray thee, and tarry all night, and let thy heart be merry. And when the man rose up to depart, his father-in-law urged him. Therefore he lodged there again. And he rose early in the morning on the 5th day to depart. And the damsel's father said, Comfort thine heart, I pray thee. And they tarried until afternoon, and they did eat both of them. And they did eat both of them. And when the man arose to depart, he and his concubine and his servant, his father-in-law, the damsel's father, said unto him, Behold, now the day draweth toward evening. I pray ye tarry all night. Behold, the day groweth to an end. Lodge here, that thine heart may be merry, and be morrow get ye early on your way, that thou mayest go home. But the man would not tarry that night, because he rose up and departed, and came over against Jebus, which is Jerusalem. And there were with him 2 asses saddled. His concubine also was with him. And when they were in Jebus, the day was forspent. And the servant said unto his master, Come, I pray thee, and let us turn into the city of Jebusites, and lodge in it. And his master said unto him, Will we not turn aside hither into the city of a stranger that is not of the children of Israel? We will pass over to Gibeah. And he said unto the servant, Come, and let us draw near to one of these places to lodge at night, in Gibeah or in Ramah. And they passed on and went their way. And the sun went down upon them when they were in Gibeah, which belongeth to Benjamin. And they turned aside thither to go in and to lodge in Gibeah, and went And when he went in, he sat down in the street of the city, for there was no man that took them into his house to lodging. And behold, they came an old man from his work out of the field at evening, which was also of the Mount Ephraim, and he sojourned in Gibeah. But the men of the place were Benjamites. And he had lifted his eyes and saw a wayfaring man in the street of the city. And the old man said, Whither goest thou? And whence comest thou? And he said unto him, We are passing from Bethlehem, Judah, toward the side of the Mount Ephraim. From thence I am. And I went to Bethlehem, Judah, but I am now going to the house of the Lord, and there is no man that receiveth me to house. Yet there is both straw and provender for our asses, and there is bread and wine also for me, and for thy handmaid, and for the young man which is with thy servants, there is no want of anything. Okay. And the old man said, Peace be with thee. Howsoever, let all thy wants lie upon me. Only lodge not in the street. So he brought him into his house and gave provender unto the asses and they washed their feet and did eat and drink. Now, as they were making their hearts merry, behold, the men of the city, certain was Belial, beset the house round about and beat at the door, and spake to the master of the house, the old man, saying, Bring forth the man that come into thine house, that we may know him. And the men, the master of the house, went out unto them and said unto them, Nay, my brother, nay, bless, I pray you, do not so wickedly, seeing that this man is come into my house. Do not this folly. Behold, here is my daughter, a maiden, and his concubine. Them I will bring out now, and humble ye them, and do with them what seemeth good unto you. But unto this man do not so vile a thing. But the men would not hearken to him. So the men took his concubine and brought her forth unto them. And they knew her and abused her all the night until the morning. And when the day began to spring, they let her go. Then came the woman in the dawning of the day, and fell down at the door of the man's house where her Lord was, till it was light. And her Lord arose up in the morning and opened the doors of the house and went out to go his way. And behold, the woman, his concubine, was fallen down at the door of the house, and her hands were above the threshold. And he said unto her, Up, and let us be going. But none answered. Then the man took her up upon an ass, and the man rose up and gat him onto his place. And when he came into the house, he took a knife and laid hold on his concubine and divided her.
Wow.
Together with her bones into 12 pieces, and sent her into all the coast of Israel. And it was so that all that saw it said, there was no such deed done nor seen from the day that the children of Israel came up out of the land of Egypt unto this day. Consider of it, take advice, and speak your minds. Wow, wow, wow.
All right, so we gotta go back and get the facts. Go back and get the facts straight. And so starting
wow.
at verse 1, it says,
Wow.
so
God bless you.
get the beamer back there, making noise.
Wow.
So
There's a truck outside.
all right, so we keep seeing this over and over again. No king, there's no king in Israel. That keeps coming up. And then we have a Levite here, and as Brother Mike pointed out in the previous studies, that this is oftentimes referring to the priesthood. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And he takes a concubine here. And it might be important that that concubine is coming out of Bethlehem, Judah. We should probably just look that word up. All right, Judges. We're in 8:19. Okay, so here it is right here. H10:35.
Okay. What were you looking up? Oh, Bethlehem, Judah. Okay.
Bethlehem, Judah.
Okay.
It's in the word 41 times. On 31 of those occasions, it's Bethlehem, and then 10 times it's Bethlehem, Judah. And it says house of bread. Serena's saying it says house of bread or food.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to copy that one. And I'm going to glue it. If we ever make it back to read the word again, it'll sure be helpful to have these notes in there to remember some of this. So it says that the concubine plays the whore against him. And I know how we think about this word, but maybe that's not what the word is saying here. So if we just take that word from Judges 19:2. I think we also saw that word whore when it said that Israel went a whoring after strange gods.
Yeah.
All right, so 19:2. And it's 19. Oh, that's Leviticus. Judges.
Okay.
19:2. See tools. Okay, it's H2181. It's in the word 93 times. 36, harlot. 19, whoring. 15, whoredom. 11, whore. Fornication, whorish, harlot. And we see all those words come up again in the definition: to commit fornication or be a harlot, play the harlot, to be a harlot, act as a harlot, to commit fornication. This to be a cult prostitute, or here we go, to be unfaithful to God, to cause to commit adultery, to force into prostitution. it's funny because it's like, I think people limit these words to men and women, and here we see one that this is about faithfulness to God.
Mm.
Yeah.
And when I look at words like adultery, prostitution, and fornication,
Yeah.
those are probably words that can be applied to many things, not just man and woman, but man to man, woman to woman, or man
Yeah.
to a strange god, or whatever the case is.
Yeah. Not just sexual, but
Not,
actual whoring after like materialistic things. Yeah.
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 All right. So for this one, I'm not gonna. If we were to copy one of these terms into the text, which one would you think it would be? Which one would resonate or seems like it's the most applicable?
To be unfaithful to God.
To be unfaithful to God.
Yeah. 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 I agree.
Okay.
There was a word in here.
And that's H2181.
There was a word in here.
All right. So the concubine plays the whore against him and went away from him to her father's house in Bethlehem, Judah, for 4 months. Then
Hold on.
she
Hold on. Are you read? You went?
say
You went to the
again.
other. You went to the other. You went to 20. Hold on.
No, I didn't go to 20. It's still in
Oh.
19.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I wasn't reading. I was, you know what, I'm trying to get the facts straight because a lot of times when we read through it the first time, I don't really know. I have insight about the chapter, but I don't really have the facts straight in my head.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
now I'm seeing that the main characters are the concubine, the Levite sojourning from Ephraim.
Mhm,
Then you have the concubine, you have her
mhm,
father, and you also have
mhm.
her husband. And
Well, the Levite is the husband.
the Levite is the husband. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
It's
All
the
right.
it's the Levite's it's the Levite's concubine.
Okay. Okay. See, and so that's those are the kind of things that I miss a lot of times on the first time reading something. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
And
just to recap, you have the Levite, his concubine.
okay.
Then you have his concubine's father, and then you have the strange men. Then you have the evil men that come. No, then you have the old man. Then you have the evil men that came to the old man's house.
Okay. Okay. All right. So those are the characters.
Mhm.
Okay. Only rose at the part. Damsel's father said unto his son, and comfort the heart. Okay. Who is when you look at verse 9, who is
Mhm.
lodging with who here? Where is this lodging taking place at?
At the damsel's father's house, at
At
the
the damsel.
concubine's father's house.
Okay. All
So
right.
his
So this
father, so his father-in-law, basically.
all right. So it's his father-in-law, and who in verse 10 is he asking to tarry to stay the night?
The father-in-law is asking the Levite to tarry.
That's his son or
Son,
son-in-law?
son-in-law.
Son-in-law. Okay. Okay. And- oh, okay. So in verse 11, it was interesting that and when they were by Jabus, the day was far spent, and the servant said unto his master,
Mhm.
Come, I pray thee, and let us turn into this city of the Jebusites. Right away, I knew that that wasn't going to work out. Bad plan. And then in the very next verse, he says, "Listen." And his master said unto him, "Will we not turn aside hither, into the city of a stranger? That is not the children of Israel." He said, "No, we'll pass over and go to Gibeah." So that definitely looked like the better choice.
Yeah, yeah.
Gibeah belongs to Benjamin,
Mhm.
and now it's like we're starting to see some interplay between the tribes and their territories. You remember those long chapters about the territories, the cities, the suburbs, and the
Mhm.
boundaries?
Mhm.
And one of
Yep.
the questions that I posed back then was how much were they permitted to go and interact with the other tribes?
Yeah.
Well, there was some conflict there, because even with Japhtha, Japhtha wind up going to war, and the men of Ephraim came out to confront him
Mhm.
because they felt he was supposed to call them into the battle.
Mhm.
And now we're starting to see where, like, you might not be from a certain tribe, but now you're having to pass through that tribe's area,
Yep.
and kind
Yes.
of you have to kind of validate your reason for being there.
Yes. And they weren't always welcome.
No, no.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
There's a note here on 15. Oh yeah. So also, when it says they turned aside to go and lodge in Gibeah, and when he went, he sat him down in the street of the city, for there was no man that took them into his house to lodge.
Mhm.
Now, to y'all, does that strike you as they didn't have a place to stay, and they were looking for a place among strangers to just kind of take them in and say, hey, you can like, do you guys think it was a part of the culture back then to, like, if you needed a place to lodge, like, somebody might be willing to take you in?
I think they were expecting it. I think that
Yeah,
they were expecting. That's why they went to Gibeah, because they
yeah,
knew that was one of the tribes of Israel. That's why they went there,
yeah,
because they belonged to Benjamin. So that is their brethren. So they were looking for some sort of hospitality, and they were kind
yeah.
of surprised they didn't get it. And behold, they came out.
And in
But
verse
one day,
8, oh, go ahead.
oh, go ahead. Oh, 16 though. That's when the old man came into play.
All right, let me look. There then came the old man from his work out of the field at even. I didn't even catch that when we read it, which was also of Mount Ephraim, and sojourned in Gibeah, but the men of the place were Benjamites.
Yeah. So
And in verse 18, it says, and he said unto him, we are passing from Bethlehem, Judah, toward the side of the Mount Ephraim. From thence am I, and went to Bethlehem, Judah, but am now going to the house of the Lord, and there is no man that receiveth me to house. That keeps jumping out at me, almost the way where it says it at the beginning of every one of these chapters is saying that there's no king, And
Yeah.
here is it, if there was a message in this, it would be that man, he is not accommodating you, but you will find accommodations in the true house of the Lord.
Amen. Absolutely.
And also there's a message here that is echoed from one of our previous chapters. In verse 19, it says, "Yet there is both straw and provender for our asses, and there is bread and wine also for me, and for thy handmaid, and for the young man which is with thy servant. There is no want of anything." We saw that phrase before.
Mhm.
If I flip back,
If you just take the
look at this. In chapter 18, verse 10, it says, "When ye go, ye shall come unto a people secure, and to a large land, for God hath given it into your hands, a place where there is no want of anything that is in the earth."
Mhm.
Remember that?
Yeah.
That's an emerging theme that we're seeing here. So that's Judges 18:10. I'm going to draw a line from that to Judges 19:19. And there was one more really, really important thing here. And there might be a lot more, but this really caught me the very first time that it was read. I remembered this from something else we saw back in Genesis. In verse 22, it says, I'm just going to read the last sentence of this verse. It says, "Bring forth the man that came into thy house, that we may know him."
That before,
And
yeah.
at first, when you look at that, it might just be like, "Oh, that we may know." Does somebody have an amplified Bible?
Yeah.
An amplified? Can we look
That's
this one up?
that's relationships. That's relationships.
What
That's
it
sex.
what that's set right. There we go. There you
Sex.
go. Yeah.
That's
Yep.
sex.
So and think that definition of know is confirmed throughout the almost all the Old Testament, starting right from Adam, because it says that Adam knew Eve and bare Abel,
Hmm.
or you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, and the first time that caught my attention was in the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, and one of the versions I was reading, when Lot was in the house, they said, "Bring him out so that we may have sex with him."
Yeah.
And most people jumped on that and made it into an issue about homosexuality. And even though there probably was homosexuality in Sodom, that had to do with them wanting to be intimate with him. It wasn't just sex. They wanted, and if you look in another version, it says know him carnally.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Then that's
and
Genesis. And that's Genesis 19.
okay, all right, thank you.
Genesis 19:5. When you said, and they called unto Lot and said to him,
Yeah,
where are the men which came into into the this night? Bring them out unto us that we may know them. Yeah.
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 Now it's tragic because verse 25, this concubine, who is she and what does she represent that this terrible thing has happened to her? Now in verse 25, it says, "But the men would not hearken to him. So the man took his concubine, brought her forth unto them, and look at this, and they knew her and abused her all the night until the morning. It's very terrible. Um, and then finally in verse 29 it says, and when he was come into his house, he took a
Mhm.
knife and laid hold on his concubine and divided her together with her bones in 12 pieces and sent her into all the coast of Israel. Do we have any reason behind this? That such this terrible thing? In verse 30 it says there was no such deed done nor seen from the day that the children of Israel came up out of the land of Egypt unto this day. That is definitely it's telling us, it's almost like it's saying this event is so significant that it wasn't seen before now, and it might not be again.
Yeah.
It's like it wants us to really look at this verse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who is this concubine, and why did she suffer such a terrible death? There's got to be a reason for it.
Yeah. Well, a concubine, although they're considered like a part of that house, but they don't have the rights. They don't have they're kind of inferior to wives. So they're just, what I'm saying, basically really equivalent to slaves, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. If you look at it's a footnote in the amplified version.
Yeah.
And it reference that. It's to reference that. Let me see if can I type this thing in?
If you can send that over in the comments, I would like to paste that note in here.
You got it? I just sent it in the chat. In the comments.
Yep, I got it. Look at that. I can't okay, there we go, copy. I was about to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's lower. So she's lower in rank.
Yeah.
But is she worthy of being divided in 12 pieces and sent to different regions?
It says in the amplified version that like after they did what they did to her, that she was found dead.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why she didn't answer.
Yeah.
Remember she didn't answer?
Yeah. And then they cut her up.
I see what you're saying. So are we saying then that she was okay?
After they let her go and abused her,
Yeah.
she was found at the concubine's house and
I
at the front
see,
door,
I
and she
see.
was dead.
I see. I got it. All right. Thank you for
What
that.
verse is that? What verse is that?
In the amplified, I'm just like looking because sometimes honestly the King James version is very hard for me to understand. And so like behold, the amendment listens to the man. So from 25 down to 29 in the amplified, it kind of clarifies it.
All right. Let's pull that up.
Yeah. Okay.
And
For she had died. It kind of the amplified. It's in brackets like in 28. It says, and he said to her, "Get up and let us go." But there is no answer, for she had died. Yeah. See, in the King James version, it doesn't say that. It just says, yeah, it just says, And he said unto her, Up and let us be gone. But none answer.
Yep.
It just says none answer. So it doesn't that it just doesn't.
Yeah, that's thank you for that, Serena, because before it just looked like she was
Like
We-
traumatized.
raped all night and then stabbed and cut up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, this is why we need a review team.
Yeah.
All
Amen.
right, so I'm just gonna go back to the King James. And on that, I think that finishes that chapter, Serena. Did you want to take the next read in a second? Or you want me to do it?
Yeah, you can do it.
All right. So let me just go back down there. Oops, I never did.
Brother Jamal, go
Yes.
up for a second. Go up, I'm gonna show you something. Go up for a second.
Okay,
You
hold
see-
on. Back in the Amplified?
No. Stay right there. Stay right there.
Okay.
You see those? You see where it says Judges 19, King James Version?
Yeah.
You see those five like pictures?
Over it?
Yep, right there, right. You right, and then go to your left. Go to your left. Oh, keep going. Do a parallel reading. You can add the amplified version next to that King James.
Okay. All right, I got you. All right, I got you.
And then you can just, yeah. And then you can get rid of that thing, that notes on the side by scrolling up. Scroll up.
Okay.
Go all the way up.
You guys can both see this.
And how do I get rid of those notes?
If you hit just hit that.
Right,
I'm gonna-
right. It's gone. It's
There
gone.
it is. Yep. There you go.
All right. This is very helpful.
Yeah.
And if I need them back, I can just bring it this way. Okay.
Yeah.
And if I want to, right, that's what I wanted. Okay, so I can hide them and I can unhide them. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can see. I'm sharing my screen, baby. Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, so in that case, I don't need to transfer anything because now I can see everything at a single view.
But it's still good to take those notes though.
Said to her, let's go instead. And I think I want to say here in verse 27, I think I do want to make a note on this here. And it's going to say the Amplified clarifies that the concubine was dead after the horrific night she suffered. All right, and then from there I can hide that. And I'm going to hide this too. Okay. All right, great. Anything else in there?
Nah, that's it. I think we're gonna get a follow-up to that though. Just judging from 20.
All right. So chapter 20. How we doing on time? Is 9:15. Okay. So then all the children of Israel went out, and the congregation was gathered together as one man, from Dan even to Beersheba, with the land of Gilead, unto the Lord in Mizpah. And the chief of all the people, even of all the tribes of Israel, presented themselves in the assembly of the people of God, 400,000 footmen that drew sword. Now the children of Benjamin heard that the children of Israel were gone up to Mizpah. And then said the children of Israel, Tell us, how was this wickedness? And the Levite, the husband of the woman that was slain, answered and said, I came to Gibeah that belonged to Benjamin, and my concubine to lodge. And the men of Gibeah rose against me, and beset the house round upon me by night, and thought to have slain me, and my concubine have they forced, that she is dead. It's so terrible. And I took my concubine and cut her in pieces and sent her throughout all the country of the inheritance of Israel, for they have committed lewdness and folly. Okay, so he did that to report the
Yes.
devastation that had been done to him.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
Praise the Lord. Talk about so they don't have no social media. He's like, I want to get this message across. So he took the body parts and sent them out.
Yeah.
He cut them in 12 pieces because he probably sent them to all 12 tribes.
All 12 times.
That makes sense.
Yep. Verse 7, behold, ye are all children of Israel. Give here your advice and counsel. And all the people arose as one man, saying, we will not any of us go to his tent, neither will any of us turn into his house. But now this shall be a thing which we will do to Gibeah. We will go up by lot against it. Okay. And we will take 10 men of 100 throughout all the tribes of Israel, and 100 of 1,000, and 1,000 out of 10,000 to fetch victor for the people, that they may do when they come to Gibeah of Benjamin, according to all the folly they have wrought in Israel. It's going down. So all the men of Israel were gathered against the city, knit together as one man. And the tribes of Israel sent men throughout all the tribes of Benjamin, saying, what wickedness is this that is done among you? Now therefore deliver us the man, the children of Belial, which are in Gibeah, that we may put them to death, and put away evil from Israel. But the children of Benjamin would not hearken to the voice of their brethren, the children of Israel. Boy. But the children of Benjamin gathered themselves together out of the cities unto Gibeah to go out to battle against the children. Look at this. Verse 15, and the children of Benjamin were numbered at that time out of the city 26,000 men that drew sword, besides the inhabitants of Gibeah, which were numbered 700 chosen men. Among all the people, there were 700 chosen men left-handed. Every one could sling stones at an hair breadth and not miss. Wow. And the men of Israel, beside Benjamin, were numbered 400,000 men that drew sword. All these were men of war. And the children of Israel arose and went up to the house of God and asked counsel of God, and said, which of us shall go up first to battle against the children of Benjamin? And the Lord said, Judah shall go up first. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And the children of Israel rose up in the morning and encamped. This is something, y'all. So the Lord the Lord is all what he went through to appoint these tribes. And now we have a conflict between them to the extent where the Lord is authorizing the war between the tribes that he appointed. Maybe I'm not seeing that right. I better keep reading. Verse 20, and the men of Israel went out to battle against Benjamin. Wow. And the men of Israel put themselves in array to fight against them at Gibeah. And the children of Benjamin came forth out of Gibeah and destroyed down to the ground of the Israelites that day 22,000 men. And the people, the men of Israel, encouraged themselves and set their battle again in array in the place where they put themselves in array the first day. And the children of Israel went up and wept before the Lord until evening, and asked counsel of the Lord, saying, shall I go up again to battle against the children of Benjamin, my brother? And the Lord said, go up against him. Right.
Wow.
I'm just making a recorded note that even if the Lord grants the consent to do battle, it doesn't mean your first attempt will be successful. All right. Verse 24. And the children of Israel came near against the children of Benjamin the second day. 25. And Benjamin went forth against them out of Gibeah the second day and destroyed down to the ground the children of Israel again. 18,000 men, all these drew the sword. It's the second time.
Yeah.
Verse 26. And then all the children of Israel and all the people went up and came unto the house of God, and they wept, and they sat there before the Lord and fasted that day until evening, and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before the Lord. And the children of Israel inquired of the Lord, for the ark of the covenant of God was there in those days. And Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, stood before it in those days, saying, Shall I yet again go out to battle against the children of Benjamin, my brother? Or shall I cease? And the Lord said, Go up, for tomorrow I will deliver them into your hand. I don't think he said that in the previous instances.
Exactly.
Verse 29. Yeah. Say it, Mike.
He did not.
He didn't, right?
Yes, he did not. Yeah.
Verse 29. And Israel set liers in wait round upon Gibeah. And the children of Israel went up against the children of Benjamin on the third day and put themselves in an array against Gibeah as at other times. And the children of Benjamin went out against the people and were drawn away from the city, and they began to smite of the people and kill as at other times in the highways, of which one goeth up to the house of God, and to the other Gibeah in the field, about 30 men of Israel. And the children of Benjamin said, They are smitten down before us, as at first. But the children of Israel said, Let us flee and draw them from the city unto the highways. And all the men of Israel rose up out of their place and put themselves in an array at Baal Tamar. And the liers in wait of Israel came forth out of their places, even out of the meadows of Gibeah. And there came against Gibeah 10,000 chosen men of Israel. And the battle was sore, but they knew not that evil was near them. And the Lord smote Benjamin before Israel, and the children of Israel destroyed of the Benjamites that day 25,100 men. All these drew the sword. So the children of Benjamin saw that they were smitten, for the men of Israel gave place to the Benjamites, because they trusted unto the liers in wait, which they had set beside Gibeah. And the liers in wait hasted and rushed upon Gibeah, and the liers in wait drew themselves along and smote all the city with the edge of the sword. Now there was an appointed sign between the men of Israel and the liers in wait, that they should make a great flame with smoke rise up out of the city. And when the men of Israel retired in the battle, Benjamin began to smite and kill of the men of Israel about 30 persons, for they said, Surely they are smitten down before us as in the first battle. But when the flame began to arise up out of the city with the pillar of smoke, the Benjamites looked behind them, and behold, the flame of the city ascended up to heaven.
Wow.
And when the men of Israel turned again, the men of Benjamin were amazed, for they saw that evil was come upon them. And therefore they turned their backs before the men of Israel unto the way of the wilderness. But the battle overtook them, and them which came out of the cities they destroyed in the midst of them. Thus they enclosed the Benjamites round about, and chased them, and trode them down with ease over against Gibeah toward the sunrising. And there fell of Benjamin 18,000 men. All these were men of valor. And they turned and fled toward the wilderness unto the rock of Rimmon. And they gleaned over them in the highway 5,000 men, and pursued hard after them unto Gibeon, and slew 2,000 men of them. So that all which fell that day of Benjamin were 25,000 men that drew the sword. All these were men of valor. But 600 men turned and fled to the wilderness unto the rock Rimmon, and abode in the rock Rimmon 4 months. And the men of Israel turned again upon the children of Benjamin, and smote them with the edge of the sword, as when the men of every city, as the beast, and all that came to hand. Also they set on fire all the cities that came to.
Wow. So I'm destroying them. Man.
And I'm picturing this thing. How can we never see? Are there any movies about this?
No, there's not. There's not.
We about to
I
see
can't
it.
say there's
I'm
not.
about to take this camera and make a movie.
I just haven't found them. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Wow. Wow. Yeah.
It just seems, and it's 9:27 now. It just seems. I mean, if we was talking about, the Jebusites or the Philistines or the Amorites,
Yeah.
that would be
Yeah.
one thing. But
Yeah.
Benjamin and Israel.
Listen, when he did that evil, when they did that evil, you know.
All right.
When they did that evil. When they did that evil.
All right, I want to stop the screen share.
Amen. Amen. Wow. So I'm gonna make a note in this Civil War. See this okay. There's a note in the Amplified. I'm gonna copy that. Basically, add a Civil War.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
So I'm gonna take a note. I'm gonna create a note.
And let me go back over here. Can you send that over?
Sure.
And I might be able to do like he said before, which is compare. And I've got the Amplify here.
But I also want to make I want to make a reference that the first 2 times of battle, they asked the Lord for permission to go out. He said, "Yeah, go out. Go ahead. Go ahead." But then when they followed the order, because I don't believe they asked him, he gave them the order, but there were still things that they needed to do before they went to war. They didn't make any kind of offering. They just went to battle without making any kind of offering, without giving any reverence to the Lord.
Yeah.
The 3rd time, they said, "Wait a minute, we got to do this thing right." They fasted for the day, and then they gave the burnt offering and gave reverence to the Lord before.
And don't we kind of learn something about the Lord too there? Because you see, in my flesh, I was saying, how could God do that? But if they don't go out there and lose, they don't learn the importance of preparation before the victory. He knows his children. He could have told them the first time, you got to fast and make burnt offerings. They probably would have done evil in the sight of the Lord and not done
it.
Exactly. You know what? I gotta let them go out there and drop off about 10,000 men. And they didn't change nothing. They didn't change anything from the first and second attempt. All they did was kept coming back to him asking for permission.
Exactly.
It wasn't until the 3rd time that they came before the Lord, that they fasted and they made burnt offering. And finally he says, and this is the 3rd time, he says that on this day I will deliver them into your hands. It's kind of like Peter. Jesus asked, "Do you love me?" And he says, "You know I love you, Lord." Jesus asked him again, "Peter, do you love me?" He says, "You know I love you, Lord." And then he asks him again, "Peter, do you love me?" And it says that Peter's countenance fell because he asked him 3 times.
Yeah.
And it's not until that 3rd time where he says, "Lord, you know all things." It's like he gets the revelation, and 3 times around, like, I get it now.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
You probably sent that over.
I sent it
Oh,
over.
I see. Civil War, Benjamin defeated. Was that all that was in that note?
No, hold on. Let me just this is what I just typed up too.
Okay.
I'm gonna send this over too. Chat. Oh, there it is. I just typed it quick, so it made me a little bit of editing. Yeah.
I can see that. All right, so let me just go here, there. All right, so 2 battles lost by the children of Israel. The third battle, they fasted and made burnt offerings to the Lord. And then the Lord delivered Benjamin into the hands of the children of Israel. That's as clean as it gets. Now, where do we tie this to?
What do you mean?
Where do we tie this note to? We want to put it in somewhere here so that it can come up. Basically, I want to add that study note into the. So what verse is that tied to in the Bible that you're looking, the study Bible?
Well, I would tie it into what's the third battle? Okay.
Burnt offerings. Is it verse 26? Yeah, it's verse 28. For tomorrow I will deliver them into your hand. Yeah.
Yes, 28. Yep, 28.
All right. Okay. Okay. Now we'll go ahead and